think of infill development, I think almost any project that would fall within the mature neighborhood overlay. So a developed community, and that can be anywhere from, Cromdale to Riverdale to Strathcona to downtown, and any sort of project, not necessarily just residential or single family.
Something that provides a lot of easy access to many amenities. So from your home, you would have easy access to shopping, working, play, parks, all that kind of stuff.
It's got to have a positive impact overall on the community, and it has to have a really good interface and how it engages with the streetscape or surrounding public realm.
Well, it's certainly going to rejuvenate mature areas in Edmonton, which is sorely missing at this point and is needed for Edmonton to be more of a vibrant city. So it's going to rejuvenate these neighborhoods and populate the schools. I see that sort of as the biggest benefit.
You get the mature trees, you get young families, you get old families, diverse community leagues, all those sort of things. So many, many advantages.
In addition to taking advantage of that existing infrastructure, you also have huge sustainability benefits, especially looking down the road some number of years. Edmonton developed a while back an energy transition strategy and action plan, and it actually said that if we are going to make any savings in terms of our greenhouse gas emissions over a baseline come about 2044 or something like that, we need to start right now on having about 40%, between now and then, 40% of our population growth, they're saying, needs to be happening in mature neighborhoods.
Here's a 1,200 square foot semi-bungalow or whatever, wartime bungalow built in 1942. That house is pouring out how many CO2s every day? Or I can tear it down and put in a house that can hit Energuide 91 without blinking.
The most overriding obstacle, Cynthia, I think, is zoning.
Zoning bylaws are a huge hindrance, in my opinion. Right now, when you take into account that everything is single-use zoning, it doesn't promote the idea that you can have a lot of activities, and to me it promotes having to get into a vehicle every time you want to do something.
My number one obstacle, City of Edmonton. Well, number one, I'm 8 to 10 weeks to get a permit, so that delays a project. So if you're someone who wants to develop an infill lot and it's going to take you an extra 3-4 months just to get a permit, I'm thinking twice now.
The planners higher up, I think, are very, like the ones I've met, are very pro inner city development. They are people who like to think outside the box, and they want to live in communities like that themselves. I find the people kind of in the trenches, and this is overly generalizing, but when you're actually going and applying for a permit, the people who are actually looking at your drawings, they have a checklist of things that they want you to have on your drawings and the information. And if you don't have that, then they can be very hard on you and say, well, I'm not going to look any further.
Until the city takes a stand and is actually both hands saying, we are supporting higher density, we are supporting sustainable living, things like that, I don't think it will happen.
The City of Edmonton, in their definition of the process right now, has put an incredible priority on support from the existing community, right? And that's just another layer of challenge that people building in new neighborhoods don't have, right? So I think that when we look at developing in a brand new neighborhood, greenfield site somewhere versus developing in an existing neighborhood, right now it is so skewed in terms of what a developer might be willing to take on in favor of, they're only really building in new neighborhoods. the number of unit growth in infill situations is abysmally low. It's only, you know, depending on the year, anywhere between 4 and 12%. And, you know, and they're telling us we need to be pushing, ideally from an environmental perspective, we need to be pushing that up to like 40%.
Personally, I think that's where the government could get a bit more involved. So I think incentives are, and personally, I think they're a good thing. Most builders I talk to don't like them as much, but they'll take incentives over regulations.
There's room to accommodate well over 100,000 people in the mature areas, go from RF1 zoning to RF3. In other words, allow 2 families on a 50-foot lot instead of 1. There are that many 50-foot lots, or even, you know, and even a 48-foot lot can accommodate, or a 46-foot lot can accommodate 2 units easily. And it's a simple thing to do, but it takes so much political will.
And maybe that means that single-family housing gets more expensive relative to other forms of housing, and you know, that's fine. Like if you look globally, a lot of people successfully and very happily raise families in situations that are not single family only, right? There's, you know, courtyard housing in Europe where it's actually a huge boon to parents and families living there because they have a built-in community and they can, you know, they can hang out with other kids and have built-in babysitting. Intergenerational housing is another example, right? You know, even the ability of being able to put a garage suite or garden suite on your house, on your existing lot if you want to be able to build in some of that social resilience and some of that diversity into your community. Because, you know, we keep talking about diversity, but, you know, social diversity in a neighborhood only comes from diversity of housing and diversity of costs of housing and styles of housing, right? And until we're okay with breaking away from this very conformist view of how we want our mature neighborhoods to be, we're not going to get the social diversity that we're looking for.